Okay, so someone requested that I do a video on the operating profit and sales profit of the big four companies of Korea, SM, HYBE or HYBE, JYP, and YG for 2021. All right, so several clarifications before I actually go into the actual numbers. One is that sales is everything that they earned. On your screens right now, you should be seeing the financial report of HYBE, their financial statement. And in there, you would see their different revenue streams. So they have licensing, album sales, endorsements, concerts. So all of this, all of this are revenue streams. This is how they earn money. Now, for a business to actually continue running, of course, they have some expenses. They need to pay their employees. They have secretaries, they have bodyguards, they have road managers. Of course, the building, they need to maintain that. They have lawyers, administrative fees, all of that. If you put all of those expenses together and then deduct it from the sales, then you have your operating profit. Ideally, your sales profit should be bigger than your operating profit. If it is the other way around, then you're in trouble. Okay, but this does not include taxes because you pay your taxes at the end of the year, one-off items or one-off payments, and debts. So for examples of one-off items would be, just as an example, if they bought a building, that's a one-off item. That's a one-off payment. So that's not included in the operating expenses. Another example would be lawyer. If they need a certain special practice and they don't have anybody in their company as an employee, then they would seek another counsel and they can pay that lawyer one-time consultation or services. So that would be another one-off payment. So once you take out all of that, the debts, if they have debts, taxes, and one-off items, then you have the net profit. Okay, on your screen right now is the Big Four's revenue report for the first quarter. Now is the revenue report for the second quarter. All of this would be 2021, by the way, if it's not clear to you. Now this is the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter. Now I added all the sales revenue for each of the quarter, and this is what you have. YG in total sales is 293.76 million. JYP is 159.81 million. SM is 586.04 million. And HYBE or HYBE at $1.02 billion. Everything I've converted into dollars, by the way. Now, this is interesting. YG earned 293 million, okay? JYP earned 159 million in total sales, but their operating profit, JYP's operating profit ended up being more at 47.73 million. YG, who actually earned 293 million in sales, actually ended up with 37.11 million in operating profit. It means that YG actually was spending more. So I know that there's a whole lot of talk about minimum efforts, maximum return. But actually, based on this, JYP is the one that's successfully doing that. They have, in terms of sales profit to operating profit, JYP is actually the most efficient. They're the ones who's actually doing minimum effort, maximum returns, because they ended up with 29.8 or 29.87% conversion from sales to operating profit. SM, their operating profit is 64.27 for 10.97%, and then HYBE kept 158.14 million of operating profit from their sales profit of 1 billion. So that would be 15.56. So from sales profit to operating profit, the most efficient is JYP at 29.87. So I would say that they actually are the ones that are practicing the minimum effort, maximum return principle in their business. Now, some things to note. There's still the net profit, and that's to a lot of people, they say that that's a bigger concern because obviously the net profit is when everything else is deducted. Whatever is left, that's how much the company made money. That's how much the all the investors and shareholders are going to divide amongst themselves. So now, some things to note. I only have the net profit of each company for the first to the third quarter, so I didn't actually put it on screen. But based on the trend of the first 3 quarters, JYP's net profit is 70% of their operating profit. So that means 70% of their operating profit they will keep as a net profit. SM is 56%, so 56% of their operating profit they will actually keep as a net profit. And then HYBE or HYBE is 74%. Now, YG is actually losing money. So for the second and third quarter, they actually lost money. So based on the operating profit to net profit, the most efficient is HYBE or HYBE at 74%, closely followed by JYP at 70%, and then SM 56%, and then YG is actually losing money. Now, YG, this is another thing, interesting thing. In the first quarter, they actually reported 90% net profit from operating profit, meaning that 90% of their operating profit they were able to convert into net profit. And I thought that's impossible because just based on the taxes itself, you can't get to 90% operating profit. But I remembered that in 2019, they actually paid off LV's investment who decided to pull out. So they probably declared loss in 2019 or 2020. And then they probably was able to declare loss in their books, and that would give them certain tax breaks. That's how it works. If you declare certain losses, then you can actually use that as a tax break, and probably that's why they were able to record 90% operating net profit. Now, they were also fresh off the comeback of Blackpink. October 2020, Blackpink released the album. It's incredibly successful globally. So it is proof that Blackpink can actually really churn out such a huge return for YG. But YG as a company is a different story. That's just one group. That's just Blackpink. But YG is a different story altogether. So for the second quarter, they actually lost more than 1.29 million and then continued losing in the third quarter. So in my head, I'm like, if you're in such a hole, then why not give Blackpink another comeback in 2021? I know that there's the pandemic, but still, they could have done something for Blackpink, considering that the fans are clamoring for another comeback. But then on the other hand, they did give Rose and Lisa their own solo comebacks for 2021, but obviously it's not enough, and the brand endorsements are also not enough to give them some sort of a bigger revenue, because just based on the books, just based on the numbers that they themselves released. So again, this is just based on numbers. I don't know what's happening in the background. Maybe it is Blackpink's choice to actually not do a group comeback, and they just wanted to go ahead and do their individual comebacks for the year, and Jisoo probably wanted to do the drama, and that's probably causing some scheduling problems. I don't know what's happening in the background, but all I have is the perspective of the numbers that they themselves released. It doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, now for JYP, they have always been very, very efficient, and this is not a surprise. They're churning out 27% net return, and that is actually not bad. That is not bad at all. They have a business model that works, and they're sticking to it. And they may be expanding globally, a little bit of experimenting here and there, but it seems that they are being very careful to not allow those expansion and new business venture to affect the current revenue that they have. And you have to give it to them because you have to remember that they have hundreds of employees with the company, and they want to make sure that and they know that if their revenue suffers, the first ones that will suffer will be the employees, and they don't want that to happen. I know that some fans are not happy that not every group in JYP is getting the treatment that Twice is getting, but again, at the very least, they're making sure that their employees are not suffering. They want to keep that revenue stream going, and you have to commend them for that. At least I do. You don't have to do anything, but I commend them for that. Okay, for SM, there's always a debate on the strategy of SM as a company. Some say that they're too traditional, they're pumping out the same kind of music, there's no growth, it's so mechanical and stuff like that. But based on the numbers itself, prior to HYB's or HYBE's rise, the BTS's rise, SM was the undisputed king of K-pop. They've always been the one that's churning out the biggest returns, and you can't debate that. And they've gone through so many problems, right? Their biggest group, DBSK or TVXQ, disintegrated. BoA started slowing down in her career in Japan. EXO lost so many members, but they always ended up on top. So you personally may not like what they are pumping out, but there's a 586 million worth of audience who does. So okay, now HYBE, they always lead in terms of dollar value, and then of course in efficiency if we take into consideration the net profit. So it's impressive considering that they're making a lot of investments. They bought Ithaca Holdings in the US, which formally expands their management, their company in the US. But they still managed to churn out that much profit, so that's very, very impressive. It's also interesting to note how HYBE is slowly building their other assets, meaning assets that is not the assets that are not BTS, to ensure their continued revenue beyond BTS. So they're purchasing different companies. They now have TXT. And Hyphen, and then of course the other subsidiaries that they have. So they're making sure that they have enough revenue streams that each group, no group may not be matching the kind of revenue that BTS is pumping to the company, but maybe put together they'll come at least 50% of it or something. It's not even half, but you know. And they're also building assets outside of music to ensure that they have more revenue. So they have dramas, they have mythology, they have webtoons, and then based on all of these stories, new merchandising, new licensing may be developed in the future. So again, they're expanding their revenue stream, they're expanding their business. So that's commendable. They're very forward looking. They have a long-term plan, so that's good. And they have a long-term plan, and they know how to execute. And they're also investing in a lot of things too. Once this investment run is done, they can probably improve in their efficiency even more. Okay, so that is it actually. That is it. And even at the height of Big Bang's career, their real competitor was actually Girls' Generation. It wasn't actually DBSK or TVXQ. Their real competitor from SM is Girls' Generation. That's their contemporary. So even at the height of Big Bang's reign, it was still SM that was pulling in the most amount of money in terms of profit, sales profit, operating profit, and net profit. Okay, so that's it actually. So I hope that you learned something, and I know that in a couple of months, in a month or two, they will be coming out with the net profit report, and I'd be interested to see that. And if I do get my hands on it, I should be able to get my hands on that. I will show it here. Thanks.